Hello guys, and welcome back to my Empires and Puzzles YouTube channel. So today we have a pretty exciting topic to discuss about. So next month, or in about 20 days, 3 weeks, we'll have a new list of Fated Summon Heroes. Thanks to Berks G for finding this new list of heroes and releasing it so that us EP players can have early access to this list. So in today's video, I'll be discussing each of the heroes and I'll be ranking them individually in comparison to each other. And it's probably good to know that I'll rank these heroes by three things. Firstly being their stats and skills. So are their stats good compared to the rest of the heroes, not in the meta but just the rest of the heroes in this list, and the skills that they provide. Next is versatility. What I mean by this is, are they useful in multiple areas of the game, and if they are useful, how useful are they in each area of the game. And lastly is longevity. So what I mean by this is, if I take this hero, I won't just max it and use it for like 2 months and never use it again. I need to be able to use it for like at least 6 months or a pretty decent time in order to get the value of this hero. Because remember, you are doing 100 pulls per legendary hero that you're gonna get from this list of heroes. And disclaimer, this is completely my opinion, so this is how I see these heroes, and of course your opinion can be different. And if you want to share any thoughts how maybe different I can arrange my list, you can do so in the comment section. So first off, we have 4 different families of heroes, 5 from each element. So firstly, we have the Underworld family, or season 4. Second, we have an arrangement of hero of the month. Next, we have the Musketeer families, which is the Old Alliance quest, I believe. And lastly is the Magic Tower heroes. So we have a pretty interesting lineup, so we'll be going over these heroes one by one, starting with rank 20, aka the worst hero in this list. Her name is Xera. So I don't even think you guys know who this hero even is until this event, because I don't even know this hero existed either. So you are probably not alone if you don't know this hero existed. So she has the Barbarian class, so that's already a big tick in the wrong box. And she gets the boosted regen ether power, so not the best there. Next, her special skill, the Saturated Suffering. So she's gonna give some water damage, and it's gonna increase based on the amount of ice shields on the board. And one thing to mention is I'll be showing the costumes for these heroes. They don't come with the costumes, but some that you can get in the Visiting Outfitter. But I'll just be going over these heroes briefly for the sake of time. So she's gonna be dealing up to 633 damage based on the amount of ice shields on the board. And this effect is uncleansable for all fire enemies, and all ice enemies are immune to this attack. So I think you can see why this special skill is quite weak. Even if you get the maximum of 633 damage, it wouldn't be really useful in my opinion, because most of the meta heroes with matching legendary troops will have probably around 4,200 health, somewhere like that. Astrid, Dular, Filler, Fergus, Bernadette, for example, will have somewhere around 3,900 to 4,200 with the matching legendary troop. So 633 is absolutely nothing, and plus ice enemies are not affected. So I think you can see why this hero is at the bottom of the list. So I recommend you to avoid her at all costs. This is her costume. I won't be going over all the heroes' costumes, and if you're interested, you can pause the video here, but for now, I'll be continuing. On to rank 19, we have Lug Haith. So I was actually debating earlier whether this hero is better than Xera, and I have came to the conclusion that they both suck. But the thing that sets this hero apart is Actually, his costume actually makes him slightly better, and his class is better than the barbarian class. So let's see what this special does. So he's gonna cast full remove on himself, and this will remove all status effects, growth, wither, status effects, and stacks that are undispellable and cleansable. This includes dancing effects. The caster shifts into ghost form for 4 turns, and while in ghost form, he can't gain mana, healed by special skills, immune to normal attacks, immune to special skill attacks, status effects, and stacks, and immune to new growth and wither effects. And while he is in ghost form, all allies except the caster get plus 64% defense, and while in ghost form, all allies except the caster will regenerate 180 boosted health every turn. My apologies. And boosted health can of course exceed max HP. And his costume is just slightly different based on that the defense is slightly lower, but you're gonna get slightly more boosted health, which is slightly better than Xera's costume in my opinion, and the paladin and the cleric class are way better, so that is why he is at rank 19. But even though he's better than one of these heroes in here, I would still recommend to avoid him. I think he is like not usable in today's game and meta, and if you're at a lower level, I think you'd be way off better if you save your mats and materials waiting for another good hero. And if you are looking for a green, I suppose there are some better alternatives in this Fated Summon. Moving on to rank 18, we have Sinissia. So Sinissia is a wizard class hero. She gets the attack up ether power, so that's quite good. Her special skill, she'll deal 270% damage to all enemies. All enemies will get minus 60% decreased healing received for 3 turns. All enemies receive 414 bleed damage over 2 turns, and against ice characters, this status effect becomes uncleansable and lasts 2 turns longer. Element Link, she will give plus 10% mana generation for all nature allies for 4 turns, and this effect cannot be dispelled. So I think you can see why this is quite weak, especially considering her attack stat. So she has been buffed. The card here is not correct, but the information here is from the wiki, and this is, I believe this is updated. But at average speed, the damage is just not enough. Like, if it's an average speed hero and she has today's stats and stuff, that would be fine, but at 883 attack at level 80, I don't think she makes the cut for me here. The decrease of healing is nice, but there are some heroes that cleanse, especially those new War of the Three Kingdom heroes, the outlaw heroes that cleansed on the critical chance. So every time they get a critical hit, they'll cleanse a status ailment from all allies. The bleed damage can also be cleansed, not against ice characters though, so that's quite nice. And she is gonna give plus 10% mana duration, so I do really like that last part, but overall I don't think there's something special with this hero. So I don't think you should go with Sinissia either. Our next hero at rank 17 is Skargrimmar. So Skargrimmar is a fighter class, so that's a big tick in the right box. I won't go over the passives here, but I think it's worth mentioning that he resists special skill blocking, and I believe he resists Bernadette's painting, due to the logic that the Construct family have the same passive and they are resistant to Bernadette's painting. So I think this applies to him. I might be wrong or I might be right. I have absolutely no idea. I should probably have done more research, but this will be the information that I will present to you for now. But her special skill, the halting counter strike, he'll deal 315% damage to the target and nearby enemies. He is pretty bad on the stats, I suppose. All these heroes are like 2 years or older because they are featured in the Fated Summit, and of course they are not gonna give pretty good heroes away for free. So these heroes are probably going to be available for the hero coach training, so I think that's worth getting out. So after that damage, he'll reduce the mana of the target and nearby enemies by 20%. The target and nearby enemies get minus 30% accuracy for 4 turns, and the chance to miss also applies to offensive special skills. Next, And lastly, Elemental Link. He gives plus 10% mana generation for all fire allies for 4 turns, and this effect cannot be dispelled. So overall, he is a pretty solid hero. Lacking on the damage, I think that should go up to at least around 30% mana reduction. He should give at least 40% accuracy, but the mana is nice overall. He could be a decent pick, but I just think there are some better heroes, and he is on the bottom end, unfortunately. So I don't recommend this hero either. Next, at rank 16, we have Arax. So Arax, this horse guy, is a wizard class. He also has the resist special skill blocking passive, and he benefits from the regen ether power. His special skill is quite interesting because he deals 410% damage to the target, but he has one of those chain special skills, so the attack will chain through all the enemies who are adjacent to any hit enemy, and the target receives 374 frost damage over 2 turns. And lastly, Element Link, he will give plus 10% mana generation for all ice allies for 4 turns, and this effect cannot be dispelled. So speaking of the stats, he is doing a pretty decent tad better than the other heroes on the stats department, but based on the skill, 410% damage to the target, slow speed, and it can chain. That's some pretty good damage right there. But the thing is, if you're facing newer heroes, maybe like a 1-year gap difference, that would be pretty substantial, I believe. So if you're going up against heroes of the 2023 family, or heroes that are released in 2023 in general, they'll be pretty evenly matched, let's just say, or the damage will be pretty good. But if you're facing a hero that's released in late 2024 or early 2025, I just don't think the damage will stack up. And like I said, longevity is one of the categories that we're judging by, and unfortunately damage dealers do not have the best longevity because of the stats, the older stats and the better stats that the newer heroes are coming up with. So that's why I don't really like damage dealers. So overall, not the best pick in this Fated Summon. But if you're playing at a lower level, maybe around 1600 to 2000 cups, you can pair him with someone like Ludwig, for example, and you can easily destroy teams. So Arax might be one to consider if you're a slightly lower leveled player. But if you're somewhere around 2100 cups and above, I don't think he's the best pick for you, especially in this Fated Summon. Rank 15 here, we have Athos. He is the first one from the Musketeer family here, and unfortunately he is at the bottom from the Musketeer family. So he is a monk class that's quite good. He gets the defense up either talent. So this guy was, I believe, was actually featured in a soul exchange at 15 souls, I believe. I could be wrong, 15 or 20, somewhere around that mark. So first off, he's gonna destroy all minions from the target, and this effect will damage mega minions, and he'll deal 470% damage to the target. The caster gets plus 20% mana for each destroyed minion, and the attack bypasses defensive buffs. This includes counterattacks, and the caster regenerates 306 HP over 2 turns. So first off, I would like to say that he destroys minions from the target, which is quite good, and he can get to a maximum of 60% mana. So if you're in Undead Horde War, for example, and you're facing a minion summoner, and the enemy has 3 minions, you fire, you delete the minions, you deal damage, you gain 60% mana. Since he's running at very fast speed, you'll only need 3 tiles to get him up and going again. You match 3 tiles, you fire another enemy, and he can be very impactful in situations like that. But the thing is, the damage just won't be enough in this day and age. 842 attack stat is not really good, and just like I said with Arax, damage dealers don't have the best longevity, but overall he he would be a pretty decent pick if you're having trouble facing heroes that summon minions, or if you're just trying to up your undead horde game. So Athos is definitely one to consider if you fall in those positions, let's just say. Our next hero at rank 14 is Octro. Now Octro actually has a costume which we'll get into. So he is of the fighter class, so that's pretty good. He gets the attack up either talent. That's also quite good. His special skill, I believe this is the costumes version. I believe I have made a mistake. My apologies. So we'll just go by the card here. I am very sorry for that mistake. I should have definitely checked a little bit better. But at average speed, he'll deal 180% damage to all enemies. He'll deal an additional 20% damage per each fire shield on the board, up to 340 damage in total. And all enemies get minus 24% attack for 3 turns. So that's a pretty decent special right there. But again, damage dealers are not the best when stacked up during a long period of time. I do like that he gives that minus attack, and his counterpart, the costume, is 160% damage to all enemies, 35% additional for each fire shield, up to a maximum of 440 damage in total, and all enemies get minus 24% attack for 3 turns. So if you have costume Octros, or if you are gonna get costume Octros from the visiting outfitter, because I believe it's available, and you don't have a pretty good red damage dealer, and you're not playing at a very high level, I think this could be the one for you, especially because of that fighter and rogue class. That's like one of the best classes along with the cleric and monk class. So rogue and fighter are the offensive ones, the defensive ones are monk and cleric. So definitely one of the best classes for Octros. So if you are looking for a decent damage dealer, and if you're not playing in the top level of the game, Octros could be the one for you, especially because his costume will be available in the visiting outfitter. Rank 13, moving on, we have Euthragan. Now Euthragan, some people may be thinking, why is he up there? Euthragan, he deals a pretty little amount of damage. He is running at very fast speed though. 150% damage to the target. The target nearby enemies receive 711 poison damage over 3 turns, and the caster will absorb 100% of dealt poison damage as health. And the element link, he gives plus 10% mana generation for all dark allies for 4 turns, and this effect cannot be dispelled. He is of the barbarian class, and he gets the defense up either talent. Some of you guys may be wondering why I have him quite high on this list, especially because he's a hero of the month, and is because when I was a lower level player around the year 2023, I faced a lot of Euthragans, and they are very annoying to go up against, especially if you don't have heroes that resist poison. That poison will just tear through you, and especially if you're playing at a lower level, Euthragan will make an amazing tank or flank. And compared to the other heroes, his attack stat is actually quite good. So I think Euthragan is definitely one of the better options here if you're looking for hero of the month, or heroes that you're looking to use on both offense and defense. He is a pretty good all-rounder. He deals damage, pretty decent dot damage, and he also is quite survivable because he absorbs that dot damage, and he also gives the elemental link. So Euthragan is a decent option. However, there are more. At rank 12, we have Telonius. Now Telonius, he doesn't have the best skill. He is of the druid class, defense up either power. His special skill, at the first mana charge, the target and nearby enemies take plus 50% increased damage from status ailments for 3 turns, and the target and nearby enemies receive 357 increased poison damage. 357 poison damage over 3 turns, my apologies. So that's gonna pair with his plus 50% increased damage from status ailments. But at the first charge, that's not really excellent, let's just say. His special skill is quite niche, but at the second mana charge, he'll recover 75% health for the caster and nearby allies, and that's probably one of the highest health recoveries. I think, yeah, that's even surpassing Cleopatra. And lastly, he's gonna the caster and nearby allies will be immune to damage from status ailments for a whopping 5 turns. This may sound good on paper, but in action, this special skill won't really be effective. He's only giving that second mana charge to 3 heroes, including himself. But I think it would be better if you'd have like 30% health, maybe 40% health to all allies, and the immunity to status ailments for like 3 turns to all allies. That would be way better. But in general, I just do not like heroes that give effect to themselves and the nearby allies, except for counterattack heroes, though that's understandable. But for heroes like this, I think their design would just be way better if they could do that to the entire team, make them more survivable. Because if you're putting him at tank, for example, you can just put a edge hitter and get some pretty easy kills, and especially if you only have 1 healer apart from Telonius, that would be an extremely easy kill. But the reason I have him quite high in this Fated Summon list is the only main reason is he's probably gonna get a costume quite soon, probably in the next 6 months, probably, because we just had costumes for Milena, Agrafina, for example, and those are some of the older heroes. Soon we're gonna have a costume for Nadzda, who is also in this Fated Summon list. We'll get to her in a moment. And actually, if you have been looking at the calendar for this month, you can see that Ray is actually getting a costume, and Ray is actually one of the newer Magic Tower heroes, along with Telonius, Willow, and those type of heroes, the second round of the Magic Tower heroes. And of course, they'll be getting that negative 75% Mega Minion health, and that is gonna benefit a lot, especially if you're gonna get his costume. So I think if you are for some reason gonna pull for his costume, Telonius might be a good option. But if you're just looking for a tank, and if you're playing at a lower level, making your team more survivable, especially on defense, Telonius might be the correct pick for you. There are some more heroes though. At rank 11, we have Constance. Now Constance here have a pretty good skill. So at fast speed, she has a short and sweet skill, 230% damage to all enemies. That's quite good. The attack stat is pretty okay, I guess. And all allies will get plus 45% chance to dodge special skills for 3 turns, and each dodge damages the attacker for 100 damage. Now, dodging is an amazing skill, but this is a really big but there are so many heroes that counter the dodge effect, this including probably the Untold Tale heroes, Astral Elves, Astral Dwarves, Beowulf, Owls, and so many more family of heroes that can never miss the target. So that is why I don't have Constance higher in this list. But if you're playing at a lower level and your opponents don't have the correct counters, because these counters are quite hard to combat, but if you're playing at a higher level, there are some pretty good workarounds for this hero. But if you're playing at a lower level, she could be a pretty annoying tank on your defense. So she is definitely a pretty good one to look for, especially if you are playing at a lower level. At a higher level, maybe not. There, just as I said, there are a lot of workarounds, and of course, like I said, the damage dealers are not very versatile, and they tend to not have the best longevity, let's just say. We're halfway through. At rank 10, we have Ethar. Now, Ethar is a very fast hero of the month. She is of the rogue class with the attack up Ether talent. So the stupendous break-in, she's gonna steal all dispellable buffs from the target and randomly distributes them on all allies. She's gonna steal 35% mana from the target and distributes it to all allies, and all allies will get plus 35% attack for 2 turns. And Element Link, she'll give plus 10% mana generation for all holy allies for 4 turns, and this effect cannot be dispelled. So talking about Ethar, she is a pretty good mana controller, especially running at very fast speeds. Stealing 30% mana is absolutely no joke. She also steals dispellable buffs and distributes them on all allies. She only does that to 1 though, so to make that clear, she gives an attack bonus and a mana generation bonus. So she is a pretty good hero of the month, one of the better ones, but she is nowhere near Ruffian and Nurgib level, so that is one to look out for. So if you have Ruffian and Nurgib, I don't really recommend taking Ethar, especially because they have some pretty similar skills, let's just say. So if you don't have Ruffian and Nurgib, Ethar might be a good option, especially if you're lacking some pretty good mana control. But if you have Ruffian and Nurgib, but if you don't have Ruffian and Nurgib, my apologies, Ethar might be a good option for you. At rank 9, we have Nadzda, and Nadzda, I believe that she is coming out with a new costume in like 2 weeks or so. So we're gonna see a costume for this hero within the next couple weeks, like somewhere in July. I don't really remember the date, but I remember that costume Nadzda will be featured next month. So I think it's a good time to grab this hero, especially if you do manage to pull costume Nadzda and you grab Nadzda from the Fated Summon. You'll have 2 copies of her. Her skill is on the first mana charge, so she's gonna give a slight amount of burn damage. That's absolutely nothing. But if the caster dies during the next 2 turns, they are resurrected at the beginning of the next turn with 30% health. All status effects are removed when the caster dies, so that is an absolute crap special. But on the second mana chart, this is where things start to get serious. Each fallen ally will have 50% chance to get revived with 40% HP. All allies regenerate 714 HP over 3 turns, and all allies reduce all received damage by 50% for 3 turns. So first off, 50% chance to revive is a massive amount. 40% HP to get revived from is pretty good, and she's gonna give that regeneration and that reduced damage. So overall, a pretty good defensive specialist. And just like with the other just like the other magic heroes, when you get a costume, that costume for the magic heroes don't tend to switch around. So what I mean is you have a good first skill, a horrible special second skill, but the costume has a bad first skill and a good second skill. So they basically nerf one part and buff the other. But for the magic heroes, I do believe that they are buffing both parts, so that is good. So they might buff it to like 55% chance to get revived, and that is quite intimidating if you ask me, when paired with the minus 75% Mega Minion HP passive. So Nadzda is definitely one to look out for, especially if you do manage to pull her from the Magic Tower portal. At rank 8, we have Porthos. Now Porthos, he isn't very versatile, but he is one of the few heroes that enhances shields. Now let's take a closer look at his special skill to further understand what I mean by that. But first, he is of the Barbarian class, and he has the attack up either power. He's gonna deal 380% damage to all enemies. He's gonna alter the power shield of all ice shields on the board. And when an attacking hero casts the special, the shields become enhanced with plus 74% attack. And when a defending hero casts the special, the shields become weakened with minus 67% attack. He deals extra damage against fire, and he regenerates 918 HP over 6 turns. So overall, a pretty good Titan hero. That second skill, the altering of the ice shields on the board, is quite good. And I believe there are like a couple more heroes that does this, like Sinissia, for example. That's the only one I can think of. The 5-star, the little girl with the blue dragon in the background. That's who I'm talking about, the Sinissia. So hopefully you know what I mean by that. But Porthos is running at slow speed. He is giving more attack to the shield. Sinissia is only giving like 54 to 60%. Porthos is giving a whopping plus 74%. So he is probably one of the best when it comes to the ice element and the altering of the shields. So if you are lacking in your red titan hits, Porthos is definitely one to look out for. Next is another good titan hero. At rank 7 we have the man, the myth, and the fallen legend, Zakina. This guy used to deal insane amounts of damage, but now he has just fallen off the shelf quite quickly. So looks like I have grabbed the costume version of the special skill again. My apologies. But here, let's just go based off the special skill on the card right here. But first, he is a barbarian class hero, and I don't think he has the dodge ether talent. He probably has the attack up or something. I don't think this information is correct. I probably grabbed the costume version of the information. But at fast speed, he's gonna deal 300% damage to the target, and then he's gonna deal 450% to a random enemy. Deals extra damage if the target is dark, and the target of the second hit gets minus 56% defense for 6 turns. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, I do believe that Zakina is the best hero when it comes to giving minus defense in the holy heroes. So minus 56% is absolutely no joke. So if you are lacking in your purple titan hits, I think Zakina is a pretty good one to have on your side, let's just say. And his costume here, he does do a he does 50% more damage, and the defense, the negative defense is still the same, so you might want to use the costume, and I think it is available in the faded, in the costume outfitter. My apologies. Moving on to rank 6, this is where we start to get in the serious territory, is Camila. Now, Camila alone, she isn't really quite intimidating, but when paired with someone we saw in the last faded summon, she could be a force to be reckoned with. So at first charge, she's gonna boost health of all allies by 400. Boost health can exceed max HP. All allies get plus 40% defense against special skill for 3 turns, and at 2%, 2x mana charge, she'll reduce the max health of all enemies by 800. All boosted health is removed. Max health can't get any lower than 30% of the original max health. And lastly, all enemies get minus 54% defense against special skill for 5 turns. Now, when I say this hero can be paired with someone, that someone is the one and only Milena. With or without costume, Milena is a pretty my apologies, with costume, she is a pretty good hero, especially because of the passive. But for my free-to-play folks out there, if you don't have the costume and only have Milena, that is still fine. The first charge of Milena, she's gonna give a regular heal, and if you follow that with Camila, they both are blue heroes, and they run at the same magic speed because they're from the same family, duh. Milena's gonna give the heal, and and Camila is gonna give the boosted health and the defense against special skill. It's also worth mentioning that Milena also cleanses, and we actually saw Milena in the last faded summon. And at the second charge, you can use Camila first to reduce max health of all enemies by 800 and give that minus 54% damage against special skills for 5 turns. And you fire that 400% damage to all enemies from Milena, and that would absolutely wipe out the enemies if you are not in the meta. Of course, if you are in the meta, that's gonna deal like 2 damage to all enemies, but if you are not in the meta, this could be a pretty good combo to have, especially if you already grabbed or pulled Costume Milena from either the Tower Summon or the current Fated Summon. So Camila is definitely one to watch out for. If you have Milena, that would be a pretty good combo. At number 5, we have Cardinal Rishelu. Now, Cardinal Rishelu, Sorcerer class, Fiend resist either power, not the best here. He does a pretty decent amount of damage at average speed at 330. He'll summon a Spy Fiend for all enemies, and the Fiend damages the enemy with 45% attack every turn. The Spy Fiend absorbs healing and disappears when it has absorbed health equal to 30% of the target's max health, and at the end of each turn, the Spy Fiend will steal one of the target's dispellable buffs and gives it to one character on the opposing team. And this is all happening at average speed. Now, at average speed, that damage isn't really impressive, and just like I said with many other heroes, damage dealers don't tend to have the best longevity. But what he stands out, or what he stood out for, is that Fiend. So that is a pretty good Fiend, 45% attack and 30% of the target's max health. And I like that it steals dispellable buffs from all enemies. And especially if you fire this guy before any other hero, then you just get that Fiend on everyone. And then when you go up against a buff heavy team, this guy is gonna strip all of them of their buffs. You're gonna benefit from their buffs, and from there it's just gonna be a pretty easy victory, I guess. So Cardinal Rishelu is a pretty good hero if you are struggling with buff heavy teams and don't have a proper or good dispeller, let's just say. At rank 4, we have Xnull. Now, Xnull, when this guy came out, he was an absolute nasty hero, especially at tank. So let's take a closer look at what this guy does and why he is so feared. Like 2-3 years ago, definitely not in today's meta, but Sorcerer class special armor either power. He's gonna heal for 40% health. He's gonna alter the power of dark shields on the board, and when an attacking hero casts the special, enhanced shields give 37% more mana, and when a defending hero casts the special, the shields become weakened and give minus 30% less mana. And lastly, he's gonna increase the mana of all allies by 10%. And if you aren't aware, he was actually nerfed. It was actually 20% mana for all allies, but unfortunately they nerfed this absolutely amazing hero and turned him into a still good hero, but just slightly weaker. And it's probably worth mentioning that this hero has a costume. So his costume version, he'll give health over time. All allies will get a small amount of mana over 4 turns. He's gonna alter the power. I think it's it's the exact same thing, but I think I would prefer the original version with the instant mana boost and the instant health instead of the costume version. The costume version also has the wizard class, which is not the best for defensive heroes, but if you are looking for a pretty reliable purple healer, and if you're playing at a lower level, Xnull might be the perfect fit. Next, at rank 3, we have Becky. Now, Becky is a pretty good mana control healer, so she's a cleric class. She has the attack up ether power, and at the first mana charge, she is going to deal 350% damage to the target, and she is going to cast something on the target that makes each time the target casts their special skill during 3 turns, the mana of all other enemies will be reduced by 15%, so that's quite good. That's basically neutralizing one hero to neutralize the other. You're technically not neutralizing the one that you're casting it on, but you are gonna make it so that every time that hero casts during 3 turns, the mana of all other enemies is gonna be reduced by 15%. And if you pair her with someone like Bernadette, or someone that gives mindless attack, or someone that gives some kind of mana control, for example, that makes the enemy lose his mana, that would also count since they're technically casting their special. So I think Becky could work in some situations there. Her second mana charge is kind of like Hippo, but first she is going to increase the mana of all allies by 10%, and for the next 5 turns, this character will deal 250% damage to all enemies each time any other ally casts their special skill, and damage is dealt on the first special skill case of each character per turn. So I don't really understand the last bit there. It says damage is dealt on the first special skill case of each character per turn. So I have no idea what that means, but I think this has unlimited activation per turn. I could be wrong, but overall I think Becky is a pretty good support hero. The damage is probably quite low, but like I said, the purpose of this hero is basically to control mana and to support the team that she's in, so I think she can definitely work well with some other heroes. Moving on to rank 2, or the runner-up, we have Vashali. Now Vashali is a pretty good hero. She is also of the cleric class. She has the damage reduction ether power. Her special skill, at first mana charge, she is going to regenerate 594 HP over 3 turns. All allies get plus 30% attack for 3 turns, and she is going to cleanse status ailments from all allies. So first off, she's going to be giving a pretty good amount of buffs, and she's also going to be cleansing. At second mana charge, you're going to get a priority dispel, so she's going to get dispel buffs from all enemies. All enemies receive 1290 stand damage over 5 turns, and all enemies are going to get minus 45% attack for 5 turns. So that is quite good, and she can absolutely wipe teams if you are playing at a lower level, of course, and if you're not facing any cleansers or... yeah. But in the current meta, she is an absolute pawn, just like her special skill. Like, probably Bernadette is the queen and Vashali is the pawn. If you bring Vashali against Bernadette, you are probably insane, probably out of your mind. But the reason why I have Vashali here is because she is a pretty decent supporting hero. Because at first charge, you're going to get a pretty decent heal, an attack boost, and a cleanse. On second charge, priority dispel, pretty good damage over time. And you're going to weaken the opponent's attack by a whopping 5 turns. 5 turns is a pretty decent amount of time, in my opinion. 4 turns and above is a pretty good time. And finally, at rank 1, I think this is quite predictable. The man, the myth, and the fallen legend, Aramus. So Aramus is the first pick and probably the best pick out of everyone in this Fated Summon. He is of the Ranger class. He'll increase either power, so not the best there. But his special skill is really one of a kind. So first off, he's gonna deal 375% damage to the target and nearby enemies. He's gonna boost all allies' health by 30% of damage dealt. All allies are immune to new status ailments for 3 turns, and this effect cannot be dispelled. The keyword here is this effect cannot be dispelled. Yes, you heard me right, this effect cannot be dispelled. And what makes him unique is he is the only hero that gives undispellable ailment immunity. So that makes him a pretty good counter to everybody's favorite grandma, Bernadette. So he is gonna be a pretty free-to-play friendly, let's just say, counter to Bernadette. And if you are looking for the best pick in this summon, I do think that it is Aramus, especially because of the current meta we are in. He's just the most relevant hero in this situation, in my opinion, and he's probably gonna have the longest longevity. I don't know if that's even a word, the longest longevity. And he's gonna be pretty versatile in many areas of the game. He is a hit 3, so he's gonna be pretty useful in challenge events if you are lacking someone in that area. But just that third skill, that undispellable ailment immunity. That's absolutely gonna set him apart. And if I would pick a hero from this list, it would be Aramus, hands down, any day, every day of the week, any day of the year, and every year of the month. That probably made absolutely no sense, and I have no idea what I just said. But these are the final rankings. You can pause the video now. Thank you for watching, and if you have made it through, make sure you have hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you are alerted every time when I drop new content. So that is all for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.